We're going to talk about the big trade, probably one of the two big trades of the day. I guess this is actually the 11th, so yesterday, not today. But it was kind of I guess there's a couple big trades. I shouldn't say that, but like two big trades. Most of the big ones kind of occurred the day before, which was a little weird. But the Toronto Maple Leafs acquire Nick Foligno from the Columbus Blue Jackets for a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick. Ryan, as an avid hater of Dubas and all of his moves, tell us why he did this correct and why you're happy about this. Actually, no, just go on about this.
Oh, man, I'm so pumped. So Foligno's the guy I was hoping they were going to get. I had said Boone Jenner, then he got hurt, and then I was saying Nick Foligno, and they got him, and I couldn't believe it. I was so pumped. So Foligno brings elements to this team that they are lacking, right? So the biggest one is grit and physicality. Like right now, they're 28th in the league in hits. The Leafs leader right now in hits is Muzzin. He has 69 hits. Foligno has 109. So he's going to bring their physicality as a team up a whole level right there. The Leafs are also needing help on the penalty kill. They're ranked 20th in the league on the penalty kill right now. Foligno was one of the Jackets' top penalty killers, so he's going to help there too. He's a big man. He's going to do great things for the Leafs. Where does he fit? I've seen a lot of people talking about how he'll play left wing, either on that second line with Tavares and Nylander, or potentially left wing on the third line. That could potentially happen, but to be honest, I see him as their new third line center. And it's been pointed out to me on Twitter that he plays left wing. He's not a centerman. And that's true. He's played most of his career at left wing, but he has been called upon multiple times to play center throughout his career. And he's actually taken more faceoffs than Kerfoot or Engvall this year. And he has a better faceoff percentage, and he's a bigger body, and he's better defensively. And I think he just upgrades that position. So I could see him at the third line center spot, and that's where I could see him. And that will be fantastic, because I was a little nervous with Kerfoot and Engvall at center. Now I can see Foligno, third line center, and then Riley Nash, once he comes back in the playoffs, I can see him as fourth line center. And now you have two defensive players playing in those positions to shut down the opposition's top players.
So it certainly feels like the Leafs are all in this year. So why is this the year to do it?
Well, you look at it right now, they're second in the league. They're first in the North. They are winning games that they would often lose last year. They're playing better defensively. They're deeper, both on offense and defense. This is the first year where I can look at their defense and be completely happy with what I'm seeing. There isn't one player where I'm like, oh God, like they got to get rid of him. And that hasn't happened forever. You know, the biggest question was goaltending, but Campbell, I don't know if he won tonight. I haven't seen the score, but I mean, he has the record. No, they lost to Montreal.
I don't know. They were losing last I saw.
Yeah, they were losing 3-2 last I saw it, but it doesn't matter. He has the record, 11 straight wins to start off the season for him. So, I mean, he's brought some stability there. Of course, there's still concerns with injuries with him. Freddie Anderson. They lost? Okay. So there goes his streak at 11? But still, and then they brought in David Riddick to help out in that goaltending in case, you know, Freddie isn't ready to go, or if it's just basically if their goaltenders just can't play because of injury. I just think they're so deep, and they're playing through things that you would often fall apart. And, like you look at like the injuries that they had earlier, and the problems that they were having in their game, and they had that long stretch of losses, and they still stayed first in the North, and they've turned it around, have won a bunch of games in a row until tonight. It just feels like a different team this year. And I think this is the year to go for it.
So we're going to make a little bit of a jump, but still keep on the same topic here, just because I think this is probably as good of a time to gush if you're going to gush. But essentially, they also made a trade for Dave Riddick, and I can't remember what the return was, Sanjay. Do you remember?
Third-round draft pick in next year's draft.
So a third-round draft pick in next year's draft. Okay. So they've also shored up that. What are you guys as a group? What are people thinking is going on here with Freddie Anderson? Do you think he's done for the season, or do we think he comes back and takes the number one, or is he essentially going to be the backup hero? Because the truth is as much as Campbell's got those 11 wins, those aren't consecutive games or back-to-back nights. He has had a very meticulously spaced out, planned schedule. And in so much so that after games, he's not always at practice the next day and everything else. So they've been very much, what's the word they used to always use for Kawhi Leonard? Load management. He's been very load management kind of handled by the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, and plus he's had multiple injuries this year too, right? So that's also the games as well. Absolutely.
Good point, actually. When Tkachuk dirtily landed on, no, I'm kidding, Sanjay, I'm kidding. But so where do you guys think in here? Like, what's going on with Freddie Anderson? Is he going to be back, or is this going? And when he does come back, is he going to be the number one? We'll let non-Flames fans answer this one.
Well, it's obviously borderline because they're trying to garner some experience in net. And like, I was thinking about it last night and I was like, God, they've got Anderson, they've got Campbell, they've got Hutchinson, now they have Riddick. Like, they've got a plethora of goalies that are decent, at least, you know? So there's got to be some speculation that this could lead into the playoffs and that his injury is affecting him longer than what they expect. And who knows, maybe they're ready to move on from Anderson, which seems a little weird at this point because you've got, you know, some guys that aren't really bona fide number one starters, right? Whereas Anderson is, but yeah, you're trying to cover up the Band-Aid.
I don't think he was coming back after this year with the Leafs. I got the feeling that this was it. This was the last ride with him, and they would find a different solution moving forward because of either money, age, or term. But
that sounds right, Baron, because why would you overload with a bunch of goaltenders, especially NHL starters, if not backups, right? Or career backups. And Hutchinson, like Campbell was a backup and Riddick is a backup. So like you're kind of betting on one of those guys taking a step like Jack Campbell did. But what the future holds for him, I also agree. I don't think it's in Toronto.
I've heard speculation that medical, and this is just speculation, but that the medical staff actually cleared him. But I've heard that Freddie Anderson is the kind of goalie that needs to feel good, or, you know, he's not a great player to play through injury. And he's it sounds like he's sitting himself out until he feels like he's ready to go.
So kind of like a Dustin Byfuglien situation where I've had a surgery, you say it's fine, but it doesn't feel fine.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, he played when obviously he didn't feel comfortable earlier, and that's when he went on that really bad stretch. And so it feels almost like he's waiting until he feels like he'll come back and actually play well. And so I'm not sure. I have no idea if he's going to come back. It sounds like he's going to come back before the playoffs. Otherwise, if he was basically out until the playoffs for sure, the Leafs could have used up the entire LTIR space, but they didn't. They've maneuvered the cap so that if he's able to come back, they can put him back on the roster and make some maneuvering and fit him in the cap. So I think he's coming back before the end of the season. But obviously they're getting David Riddick because they have no idea at this point how he's going to play and what he's going to be like. And he played so poorly that last stretch there that you can't rely on that. Plus Jack Campbell's playing hurt, right? So Jack Campbell goes out in the playoffs, and then Freddie Anderson is playing like the Freddie Anderson just before he decides to go on LTIR, or the team put him out on LTIR. If he plays like that, they're hooped, right? So, you know, they got another security blanket in David Riddick. And, you know, I think there were better options out there than David Riddick. I let that be known. Like, I was really hoping to go for Jonathan Bernier or Linus Ullmark. It sounds like they were trying to kick the tires on Ullmark, but for whatever reason, that wasn't going to work. But I mean,
Ullmark sounds like he's getting an extension in Buffalo.
Is that what
it sounds like they're working towards that. Yeah,
gotcha.
At least that's what they said earlier.
He's going to sign in Buffalo?
A sure thing's a sure thing.
I suppose so. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's only 31 positions for starting goaltender. So, you know, if you have, correction. Thank you very much. There's going to be 32.
You never know. Maybe they'll steal him.
Yeah. So, you know, but I mean, David Rick, he's okay. Like he was like a 902 save percentage this year, which is below average, but you know, as a third string goalie, that's fine. And, you know, I probably still feel more comfortable putting him in than Hutchinson, even though Hutchinson's played fairly well this year. You know, there's just a bigger body of work behind Riddick.
So, Sanjay,
sorry, go ahead, Baron.
Oh, I was going to actually just toss to you on a question, but you say what you want to say about Riddick, and then I'll toss to you.
Yeah, David Riddick, he's very Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, one time he'll have a stretch and he'll be fantastic. I think back to when the Flames finished first in the Western Conference. He was fantastic up until the All-Star break. And then he struggled really mightily, and Mike Smith actually got the starting job in the playoffs, and he started game one, and he was terrific. But Rittich, and then next year, Rittich again had a hot streak. You know, he was doing really good. Cam Talbot came in. Cam Talbot actually got the start in the playoffs. So, you know, for bringing in a guy for an insurance policy in the playoffs, his entire playoff resume is like 22 minutes against Dallas when we were like getting torched like 6-2 or 6-3 or something. So he doesn't have any playoff experience to speak of, but when he's hot, he's a terrific goalie. Made the All-Star game last year. So in that respect, you know, if you get him when he's hot, you guys are getting a terrific goaltender. But when he's not hot, and we've seen it, the game against Ottawa, he gives up a goal from center ice, hits his head against the door. He's a fiery character. So hopefully you guys get him in the good side, because he seems like a good person.
I wonder if he won over Dubas when Calgary was playing Toronto, and he basically won that game for Calgary and just stoned all the Leafs. You know, he played fantastic that game. So hopefully that's the guy we're getting.
So have these moves solidified Toronto as the top team in the North Division? It's always kind of conversation. They already have a healthy lead on every other team. But is this essentially is this a guaranteed second round, third round team now?
Well, nothing's guaranteed, but on paper, I would say yes.
There you are. Ryan has guaranteed the Toronto Maple Leafs are a third.
I never want to guarantee anything because I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to jinx
the parade
anything.
Right down Bay Street. Here we go, Toronto.
But again, I talk about this depth, right? So at forward, you're looking at come playoff time, you're looking at sitting two very good players. Like, you might be sitting Joe Thornton or Pierre Engvall or Riley Nash. You know, you're not going to be able to fit everyone in. On defense, they picked up Ben Hutton. Great pickup. I could see him challenging Travis Dermott for that number 6 spot. I could. No, he actually has some pretty decent numbers right up there with Dermott. And I mean, I've been very happy with Dermott. You know, maybe just keep them the way things are going because it's working. But, you know, I'd be very happy. At least Ben Hutton has experience as opposed to before. Okay, now we're calling up our rookies, you know, Liljegren or Sandin, who haven't been able to play very much at all this year in the NHL. So, again, the depth that they're bringing in, they address some very major needs in terms of, like I said, that physicality that you need in the playoffs with Foligno, defensive play with Nash and Foligno and Hutton. You know, the only big question for me is goaltending, and hopefully they have enough options now that it'll work out for them. But you look around the rest of the North, Winnipeg, they really needed a top 4 defenseman. They just got a depth defenseman. Okay. Well, we'll just, you're looking around the North, but you're asking, does this help put them above the rest of the North?
Why do we have a document? Why do we have a document if you're just going to go through every single name and compare them to the
all right, I won't go into specifics, but just generally overall, they made a lot of moves, the Leafs, to help bolster their lineup for the playoffs, whereas the rest of the teams just did a little tinkering.
Right.
Maybe Montreal did a bit more than that, but most of the teams just did a little tinkering here and there. And so, yeah, I think that does help separate it a little bit even more.
I do like what Toronto has done. To counter Ryan's point, though, they're bringing in guys that know how to win maybe around. Where's the experience?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Boom! This has been an Adam interruption.
Well, at least they have players on the team now that have won around. Riley Nash was with Boston.
McDavid.
Riley Nash was with Boston.
Thornton has gone to the finals.
Thornton's gone far.
Spezza.
Simmons has gone with Philadelphia. They went to
Simmons
the
is
second
good,
round.
yeah.
Muzzin won the cup.
Foligno.
Anderson.
No, I also have Bogosian who won the cup.
I just like poking the bear.
Delayed Offside.